Minute. It's taking a second. Got it. Did you get that notification?
Yes, I did. And I pressed got it, which means I gave my permission.
It's still the bar. I think it might take like 10, 20 more seconds.
It says on my end, it says meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
Here we go. Oh, there we go. Wow, I think we're live.
Wonderful. So they call on YouTube, they say this is a live debut or something like that.
I believe so. I believe so.
Is there a chat window that you can turn on?
There is. I'm looking at it right now. And let's see here. We have one viewer watching right now. So I'm seeing the chat window and I see our conversation. I don't know if you can see. I don't think you can see it because it's on my account. So I'll just have to.
No problem. Just leave it like that.
I'll call it out, and then like after our conversation is over, I'll read them, and then you can answer them. So
you can too. Anyway, while you're doing that, I'd just like to thank you once again for having me on your channel.
Not at all.
It's been a really great pleasure knowing you over the years, and I just wanted to start off with a little introductory talk based on what's been in the news lately.
Yeah, let's do it.
and what I want to get at is the concept that we're nothing special.
Yeah.
We're all humans.
Yeah.
And beyond that, we're all life. And we exist in a universe which is life. Everything is alive. And there's nothing that makes me a little bit more ashamed of the behavior of some people that sit up on their thrones and consider themselves higher or better or somehow more privileged because of their births than everybody else, and think that they can get away with spending millions of dollars of our tax monies. And in my case, I live in Canada, so we're part of their club, and we have to contribute to their obscenities, also known as public ceremonies. And as usual, I'm not going to name names, but if you have been watching the news lately, and I hear there was more than 1 billion people watching the ridiculous behavior of one particular family who think that they somehow have a special place in our consciousness and in our hearts. Well, not my heart and not my consciousness, because I see them as they are. And as they are pretenders. They are pretenders to some kind of special status or a special knowledge or a special privilege. And I don't buy that. And I don't think, I think many Americans would agree with me, because that's
absolutely
that's the founding principle of the United States as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
To escape from that kind of control mechanism and that kind of necessity to bow down. You don't have to bow down to anyone. And,
no,
you don't have to respect anyone except for the fact that they're the same as you.
Yeah.
If you want me to continue, I would say that also anyone that talks to you or you listen to, whether it be on the internet, the newspaper, or any media whatsoever, don't listen to them because of who they are. Don't mark down their words or their pronouncements because of their reputation or what somebody has said about how great they are. No.
Yeah.
It's the message that's important, not the messenger. The messenger is just somebody, a regular Jill or Joe, just like you and me. And if you pull off the mask of their pomposity and their highfalutin self-concept of themselves, then we can really see if what they're saying is important or not.
Absolutely. I agree completely. And I think that level of discernment is something that we're missing in this world today. You just touched on a lot there, but I think a big part of that, if you go back 50, 100 years and you look at today, we've really downgraded and deteriorated in terms of having that sense of what you're talking about right now, the discernment, the knowledge, the education, everything, and I know we actually spoke about this, we touched on it on our
Give me
previous.
liberty or give me death.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened to that one?
Yeah.
What happened to Thomas Paine?
Mm-hmm.
What happened to some of the founding fathers and mothers of your country?
Yeah.
And what happened to that spirit?
Yeah, that spirit it's alive, but it's definitely something that's really seen a lot of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, not competition, but it's distractions. Yeah, absolutely. Confusion, and where everything, media, pop culture, everything's responsible for tearing away at that spirit little by little.
Some Cardassians, excuse me.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, we can speak freely here, right? That's the whole point of this podcast is creating a space for free dialogue. And it's the podcast is called Flowing Within, and it's to really talk to people on, and see how they got to where they got to today through their own process of awakening the spirituality. But it's also free, like I mentioned in a video in the past, like the importance of free speech and free dialogue. We need to have this. We do. I mean, otherwise we're no different than communist China, right? If you can't talk about something because somebody doesn't like it, and you're going to get in trouble if you do, then what kind of society do you really live in? I mean, I've lived in China. I lived in China for 2 years in 96, 97, 98 when I was a kid. And then I went back recently for a month. This was, I think, a couple years ago. And when you're there in China, you're in a communist country. You feel it all around you. You look at the people as they're walking around, and you look at how their mannerisms and stuff, and they've been so subdued. They're forced in their own head. And if you dare speak of anything negative, like voice your opinion, such as saying, oh, maybe I don't like the CCP, maybe I don't like Xi Jinping, maybe I don't agree with the policies, you're gonna get in trouble. I actually like to share a story.
Please.
That my mother, she was born and raised in Mao's Communist Revolution. Before she, I'm actually I guess the first generation here. My mother moved to America in the late or mid 80s.
Was she old enough to be a Red Guard?
I think she was only a young teenager at the time.
Right.
So no, I don't think so. But yeah, I'm actually not sure. Probably not. But she, I think, yeah, she was a teenager, a kid going into a teenager during the time of Mao's Communist Revolution, and she was, she lived through all that, and she told me that she had this fascination with like studying English for some reason.
Yes.
During that time, and it was interesting because she said somehow, some way, she got hold of a cassette player. Not like a Betamax, but that had basic English lessons, like how to say hello, goodbye, basic stuff.
Was it a big one, like an 8-track?
I think so. Yeah, it was, but this was contraband. This was considered illegal to have, and if she would have got caught, she would have been in jail for a good amount of her life just with that. And so, she was on her own time in secret. She couldn't even tell anybody because people were trained to essentially be a rat, a snitch, like snitch on your friends, on your family. Everybody was a spy, and she would on her like private time at night, she would put in the headphones and listen to these things and try to learn a little basic English when she was a kid. But that's it's so scary when I think about that. It's such a scary reality to live in where you would go to jail for something like that.
But Frank, we are living in that reality right now.
Oh, we are. There
are people in jail right now.
Yeah.
For visiting their capital.
Yep.
There are people in jail right now for defending their homes.
Yep.
For speaking their for exercising their freedom of speech.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's true in my country as well as yours.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of, people talk about things like alternative realities.
Yeah.
and they say things like, well, if you're negative or you're positive, you'll be in a different timeline. Well, you know what? There are different timelines right here and right now. And if anyone has spent a few months or weeks traveling to other countries, what they think they see is a culture. But what they're really seeing is a different reality.
Yeah.
It's a different timeline in a sense. It's because, if you go to North Korea today, you'll see a society where you'll get imprisonment for sitting on a newspaper with a picture of the dear leader on it, because that's an insult to his visage. You see,
can't talk bad about him.
No,
and you can't be good.
Yeah, you can't even put your butt in the wrong place.
You can't even critique him. Otherwise, if you critique him, you're going to jail.
And there's majeure laws against criticizing the monarchy in Thailand, which is supposedly a democratic country. There's people serving 10, 20 years in jail for pointing out certain picadillos in the monarch's private life.
Yeah.
By the way, he spent the entire COVID lockdown period living in a luxury hotel in Bavaria.
Oh gosh.
This is the kind of privileges that certain people think that they have over others and that they're special. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, the point is that imagine if you were in a military and you had to follow those rules, my house, my rules, and you had to think along a certain way, and any thoughts that deviated from that certain mindset that's permitted under the military code of justice or the regulations of your service, then you're breaking out, and you're a deviant, you're a potential criminal, and that is what we live on and live under on planet Earth. That's our hierarchical control system. And we have to really look at the big picture, because it has nothing to do with one country, with one individual, or one point in history. We are on a prison planet. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about being able to have freedom of thought in one place or sitting on a newspaper in another, that's where the prison bars become visible.
Yep. That's where it's overt.
A lot of people think that, for example, let's do a little bit of details here. A lot of people are concerned about the conflict in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Would you have a hard time believing me if I said that both sides are controlled by the same control tower?
That's right.
Would you believe me for 10 seconds if I posited the concept that all conflicts on this earth, be they petty or international, are designed to keep us fractured, spiritually blind, and at each other's throats in order to cancel out our spiritual potential, in order to stunt our spiritual evolution, and make us docile and prisoners who are fighting each other instead of our guards.
Yep, exactly. And we see that in every facet of life, not just politics, huge, right? Sports, media. It's done to take away our humility, our humanity, and just make us at each other's throats.
Right.
This is what I believe in. This is my belief, and nobody can tell me different. And if you say something else, you're wrong. You're evil. You're bad. You're right. A terrible person. And
yeah, thank God I was a well-adjusted child. I hated both my parents equally. That's a joke. But the point is that the family is where it starts.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times we're blinded. We're blinded to reality by all kinds of little conflicts. Yeah. Like, I used to fight viciously with my sister because she would always flip that toilet paper roll the other way. What the? God darn it! I want it to come from over the top, not from under the bottom. What?
What's funny, Tim? Sorry to interject, but this was like 6 years ago, and I was listening to Coast with George Norrie. I was driving home at night from work, and there was a whole segment on whether or not toilet paper should be under or over, and I
Right.
was like, what the hell am I listening to?
Uh-huh. Well, it was definitely a potty humor show. But the point here is that this is the way we get trapped. This is the way we lose sight of what's important. I mean, there's road rage.
Yeah.
There's people who are offended by whether they're called a he or a she. What the WEF is all that about?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna make a new gender. I'm gonna call myself transparent. Yeah, and I've decided that I'm going to become invisible, and I've got some new pronouns. Who, where, and I'm just going to disappear. Okay, is that cool? Can I do it?
Oh well, according to this new ideology, you can be whatever you think you want to be.
Well, that's right. I made a decision, didn't I? And if you see me, that's an insult to my humanity.
Yeah.
Because I'm not even here. I'm a who or a where.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So how dare you? And this is the kind of nonsense that we're being bombarded with. And in a sense, back in 1776, people were a lot more sensible.
No, they were. Yeah.
A lot more realistic. And a lot more capable of seeing what was important, because they weren't bombarded with a bunch of
bullshit.
What words can we use? What words can we use?
Yeah. Tim, I'd like to take it a step back and
please
ask you a couple questions here. So, stepping away from today's issues, I want to hear more about you and kind of how you got into all this. You're awakening. I know it's I know you it's a lot, but
well, the problem is I have to tell the truth now, don't I?
Well, I mean, you just tell whatever you like to share, that's pretty much
okay.
But tell me how you got involved in the metaphysical and spiritual, and kind of how far back does that go, and bring it forward to present day, and
okay,
HAPM.
I will tell you quite sincerely that my first metaphysical experience was out on the schoolyard schoolyard in grade 1. And I remember vividly walking along the fence, and I was by myself because everybody else was playing around at the picnic tables where the kids ate lunch. But I just didn't want to hang out with them because they weren't really in my intellectual milieu. So, because I'd already read a book and they hadn't, in grade 1. So anyway, so I was walking along the fence there, and I heard trumpets, and then I heard strings, and then I heard arpeggios and chord structures, and I was hearing music in my mind, and it had a particular structure to it, a particular progression and a harmonic composition. And I went back to my dad later that night, and I hummed it to him, and he said, "That's Beethoven's Eroica." And I said, "What? Who's Beethoven, and what's an Eroica?" And he said, "I played that to you before you were born, when your mother was pregnant." And he'd read Dr. Spock's book, which was popular in the 1950s, all about how you could use classical music, particularly Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart, to stimulate neural activity in an unborn fetus.
Yeah.
So he'd done some experiments with the home stereo on me, and he was blown away when he found out that the experiment had reached fruition. And after that, I realized what I could do.
Nice.
And I started composing my own music in my mind. And it was there. I could hear it anytime I wanted. I didn't have to write it down. And it was years later that I found out that Mozart always composed music that way.
Yeah, that's right.
And the writing down part was only from the memory of what he'd already composed in his mind, right?
That's right. Yeah, it was all.
And then I went into music big time, and learned how to play the piano, and went to art school. I went to music school, and I became a complete failure at classical music for other reasons. I couldn't handle the university system of control, of intimidation, of hierarchy, and basically it's all about the money with them.
Yeah, bureaucracy, right?
Now that saved me later on in life when I didn't believe for 10 seconds that 1,000 academics said that the world's warming, and another 1,000 said that we are all going to die from some horrible disease if we don't take a medical procedure. I don't believe any of those people because I know that they're all corrupt. I know that they'll do anything for a research grant.
That's right.
Or a permanent position on the faculty.
Yeah.
Called tenure. Okay. I know those people, and I know that no academic or university professor has ever composed good music. So there you go. That's the beginning of my spiritual
interesting
journey from music, from the arts.
Jay, so we have a question for you. JPM. Oh, hey Tabby.
Hi, JPM.
Hey guys. Christine. JPM asks, while you were talking about music and hearing it in your head and Mozart, he asks, do you think it could be past life memories coming through? What do you think about that?
I think that our past life memories absolutely set the stage,
yeah,
for our current abilities.
Absolutely.
So I have no doubt that I had exposure either as a musician or a composer to classical music, particularly from the 18th century and 17th century, which I gravitate towards that type of music. I'm not really into Stockhausen or some of the 20th century composers. I find them dissonant and not harmonic and not beautiful. I just happen to love Renaissance and early classical music, and that's just me. And I have no doubt that the reason for that is because I have a sympathetic vibration with my previous incarnation at that time.
It's weird as you're talking about this. I'm getting images of you being alive in a past life, mid 17th century, maybe early 17th century.
That's about right.
I think you must have been somewhere in Europe.
Right.
I want to say like northern Italy or something.
Definitely Italy, because I was also studying map making.
Yeah, it's
cartography.
You were in the mountains, like where Italy and Switzerland, they all kind of meet up there. I'm seeing you spending time there. I don't know if that's where you lived, but you were there spending time, and you were just.
Thank you, Frank.
No problem.
Thank you, Frank. I don't know all the details.
It's like you had a group. It's like there was a group of people that you were with, and you guys were all musicians, and it was just this.
Yes, because the thing about music is it's not just the music itself; it's the vibrations of the music.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're exposed to those beautiful harmonic vibrations, what it does is it resonates within you and raises your body consciousness and your spiritual consciousness. That's why music is so important, and that's why some types of music, it's a highway to hell. I mean, I kind of like that song.
I like that song.
My AC/DC is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
but
all
you
right.
know what? It kind of definitely lowers me down and makes me feel like grabbing a bottle of whiskey and a couple of joints and going out on a Saturday night and just having a great time with anything in a skirt. How about that? Now, what is the effect of that music? Whereas, classical music makes me feel a little more, generous to my fellow human, a little more mannered, a little more polite, and raping and pillaging is not on my mind. Go figure.
Yeah, seriously. Oh yeah.
Does that answer your question, JP?
JP says, very cool. It was familiar to you in this reality, kind of like medicine. So yeah, I think
we live in a prison planet, and we definitely need some protection, something to keep us going in this era of liberation. We are under new management, I believe. We're about to enter another age of existence, both spiritually, materially, and physically here. And I can't thank the universe too much for allowing me to live it in this most interesting of times.
Nice. Nice.
Especially with a little help from my friends here.
All right. So Tim, what have I guess what have you been up to recently? Tell us about, as of late. I've been watching your videos on YouTube, your own channel, and I got to say I love the content. I love the dialogue you guys have. I love the discussion you guys have, and I guess tell us more about that and kind of what you're doing and just elaborate.
I have a good friend who's we're like Laurel and Hardy. He's
Awesome.
Laurel and I'm Hardy, the big guy who's always full of bluster and opinions. And Hardy is always saying, "Oh, yeah, okay, but are you right about that, or are you correct about that?" He's always criticizing a little bit. And he's a friend of mine who's a professor in Vancouver at UBC, and he assists me because it's hard to do it on your own.
Yeah,
it really helps when you have someone to dialogue with, like we're doing today.
absolutely.
And it kind of creates a connectivity between souls. And that connectivity opens the door to other souls and allows you to reach out into what I would call the collective consciousness and retrieve knowledge and information, which we can then record for everyone. And that's basically what I'm doing. I'm channeling. I don't know who I'm channeling. I don't know where I'm channeling, but we're definitely doing it. And I don't think it's negative. I think it's positive. So that's my website, and I hope anyone who wants to can come and check it out. It's not monetized. I don't agree with that, because monetization and Satanism are intimately connected. But the point is that if you can express yourself, you can improve yourself. If you can't express yourself, they will abuse you because you're not able to stand up in your own sovereignty and have your own mind and have your own ideas. And you know what? Nothing can touch you if you're strong in yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you will be roadkill if you're not.
It's true.
And I think that's the main lesson of life on this earth.
I like that. I like that a lot. Just having that fortitude in yourself to keep going, to really.
Oh, I'm just faking it here. I don't really have any fortitude, but it's, if I can,
no, you do.
If I can verbalize it, it gives me some hope.
It's funny, Tim, as you said that, my ears are ringing, even though I'm all clogged up right now. My ears just so that was like a confirmation. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, thank you very much. But I have a little story to tell.
Yeah, shoot.
About my childhood, my past.
Okay.
Remember when you're in elementary school and everybody's the same because we're all kids. Yeah. Grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, maybe up to grade 5 or 6. And the thing is that it doesn't matter whether you're from a First Nations background or, another ethnicity. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, because look, kids don't care about that. They all get together and they cooperate and they communicate on a one-to-one basis, and they just see each other with total neutrality, and they see and sense the energy of each other.
Yeah.
And they don't have any problems because there's no problem energies there. Because we're all born pure. We're all born as part of the Great Spirit. And it's only after a while that Great Spirit of purity gets polluted. And it usually gets polluted by the adults or by the situation you might be in. Although the situation is never bad for a child. You could be born in a house with no toilets and no electricity, and you're going to be just as joyful to be experiencing life in this world as someone with a hot tub and a 24-foot swimming pool in the basement. You see, that doesn't matter when you're in grade 3. What matters is that you're with your friends. But then all of a sudden around grade 8 or grade 9, some start to drift one way and some start to drift the other. And all of a sudden, some of those kids that used to be your friends are like vaping, doing drugs, hanging out at the street corner instead of going to class.
Yep.
And, having casual sex and, there's nothing wrong with sex, of course, but without any emotional commitment. And basically becoming delinquents in the concept of that. And it's almost like a split. It's almost like a dimensional split between maybe 3rd and 4th, or 4th and 5th. Of course, dimensions are just hierarchical numbers that don't have any meaning in reality. But the point is that there's some kind of separation energetically going on. And all of a sudden, they don't come to your birthday party anymore.
Yeah.
You don't see them anymore in school. And in grade 8, they dropped out entirely. Or maybe at least in grade 12, you didn't see them when you went to your local university. And that what happened to Johnny? Oh, well, Johnny got arrested for selling cocaine. And what happened to Jill? Well, she died of a drug overdose when she was 22. Well, they separated from you and went into another reality, didn't they? They lived in a different world from you. So when people get all confused about different realities and different worlds, they're not really seeing that it's all around us all the time.
It's true.
So is that what happened to you, Frank? You
well,
came back? You came back from the dark side? Is that it?
Yeah, yes and no.
I'm just joking. Pulling you.
Oh, but there is a good. I mean, I when I was younger, I was also, I think, a delinquent. It didn't really stem from I just didn't know. I guess I was looking for myself, when I was a teenager and a kid, and I was hanging out with whoever, anybody and everybody, just trying to fit in, and
looking for love in all the wrong places.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. And I got in with a group of questionable kids that
right.
All we did all day was smoke marijuana, get high, and hang out and drink, and not really do
I knew it. You see, you're not the only one with prescience. I can see a few things.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I was 17, I got in trouble with the law. Actually, I was in a car and we got pulled over, and we had all this marijuana and all these other paraphernalia on us.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, we were definitely. I definitely had a
Now, can you really say that you would be the person and the
person I am today if I didn't go through all that?
You have to go through all that. You have, in order to perceive what you see today. And that's what by the way, that's what Rasputin said.
Oh, interesting.
Rasputin said you have to live every possible vice, experience every possible addiction, and carnal pleasure before you can find the spirit, the purity of God. And he definitely did that in the court of Tsar Nicholas II. He was quite popular with the ladies, even though he refused to bathe. So, I mean, the guy didn't smell too good, but he definitely was able to give a pleasurable experience even in under those conditions. So the point here is that everybody has a different path.
Yeah.
And some are just never step a foot outside of a beautiful, loving, and Christ or God conscious condition, whereas others have understood every possible evil and have risen above that understanding to see the truth and the light. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, and I'm just saying that all is possible here because this is a free will planet.
Yeah. We have a question from JP again. JP asks, Frank and Tim, Do you think a karmic debt is involved with these matters to steer you in a different direction? He's talking about what we were just talking, how we have to go through different events in life. Like, what do you think about that? Do you think
In
it's
other
a
words,
karmic debt?
does he mean the reason we're here today trying to talk about helping others is because of a karmic debt that we are trying to expunge?
Not necessarily helping others. I believe the comment came in as we were talking about all the negative aspects of life, the drugs and this and that. So I think that's what he was the context and what he was referring to. Basically.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to answer that question very simply. I don't believe that we originally even had a material existence. I think that the origin of our spiritual souls is much higher than to be entrapped in this 3D physical reality. And I think just coming down here and being incarnated is itself a karmic debt. Is itself a limitation, and not a punishment, but a learning experience, because you're constricted. You no longer have the freedom of an infinite soul that can move from one side of the universe to the other in a thought, because you're not constrained by the speed of light or anything, because you're not in a physical body. Yeah. So in other words, we've undergone limitation in order to come down here. And Rasputin, of course, said, the more limitation, the better. That's going to make you stronger. The more suffering that you undergo, that'll just, toughen you up. Now, what's a karmic debt? Well, a karmic debt is where you have acted selfishly towards others. Is it not? It's where you have inflicted pain and suffering for your own benefit upon another. I mean, I think that's the definition of a karmic debt. And in which case, if I have done so because of ignorance, then I think that I can achieve liberation. But if I've not done so because of ignorance, in other words, I wasn't ignorant, I did it on purpose in order to feast, or in order to thrive from the energy of others, using ceremonies, using planned violence and mayhem against others. And just like our legal system, was it an accidental murder, or was it with forethought? Was it premeditated? Like when you kill somebody accidentally, like I got, me and Frank have a bond because in a previous life, I got shot in the back of the head and he got shot in the front of the head. And those people do they have a karmic debt to us? I don't know. Maybe they were ordered to do it. Maybe they were in the militaries or whatever, but if you purposely cause pain and suffering to another person, I believe that you're going to have to experience that in return.
I think my belief aligns with that as well. It pretty much is all on intention and what where it comes out of.
Yes, and when you repay through your suffering, it makes you stronger than just random suffering. So I'll take the karmic debt suffering more than the random suffering, because it's more beneficial. That sounds twisted.
It's actually pretty smart. No. Well, all right. The way I wanted to run these podcasts and interviews is at the end, I wanted to give people a chance, if they have any questions, to drop a comment and we'll get to it. So I think we'll run for an hour. We still have a lot of time, but to you guys that are watching, listening, we're going to keep talking. But if you have any questions for either Tim or myself, or just the dialogue, the conversation in general, or what we're talking about, please feel free to drop a comment and we'll get to them near the end.
Here's another little thing I'd like to bring up.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't know how to listen. And I heard your video that you did, I think yesterday or the day before. And it's basically about listening and being peaceful and being meditative.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't really get what that is all about.
Yeah.
But I'll make the analogy of like a relationship. If you're in a relationship with a male or a female, depending on whatever your choices are. Sorry, I didn't mean to say anything there. Then, have you ever been in a situation where you're talking to them?
Yeah.
And all you can remember is what you said. And then they come back the next day and said, you weren't listening to me. You were just talking. And you weren't really helping. You weren't communicating. Well, that's like us and the universe. If we're just thinking about ourselves and if we're just projecting our own understanding of the universe and the reality, and if we're just relying on our sensory impressions, it's just like you think you're talking to that person because you think you know them, but
But
no,
you're not.
They say, you don't know me. You're not listening to me. You don't get me. Well, that's like the universe. The universe is a little bit upset because we don't listen. We don't see what's going on.
That's a great point. A lot of people, when they talk or conversate or have dialogue with somebody, they're just waiting for their turn to talk. They're not actually engaging in the conversation.
Yeah, they go, yeah,
exactly.
Whatever you said. So I don't care because it's not my point.
Exactly.
And I do that all the time.
I think we're all guilty of that to a certain point, but there's people that really, really just go out of their way to do that more than not, and it's really a problem. I mean, it
because
creates...
of respect. It's because of respect.
Oh, yeah.
See, you don't listen to people that you don't respect.
It's true.
And that's what your partner was getting at. You didn't listen to me. That means you didn't respect me. We don't respect the other side. We don't respect the universe. We don't respect our mother and father energetically that created us, because our biological parents didn't bring us into the world. They just carried us from one spot to the other. We were already here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just did it to you. I didn't listen to what you said.
I didn't say, what did I say, actually?
You see, there you go.
I don't even know what I said. No, I think I was touching on how people, what you just said is what I was just talking about. So yeah.
No, I listen to you a lot, Frank.
Thank you. I listen to you too.
Yeah, you see, and you know why? Because we have mutual respect. And what we also have to do is have to realize that everyone deserves the same level of respect, no matter who they are. And even if they are a newborn baby that can't talk, or even if they're a tree or a cow, or maybe even an alien species that we don't like, because that's all part of creation. And that's one of the biggest difficulties that we have when we're dealing with a subject like first contact. Now, first contact is a huge problem because it has to do with respecting the evolution of lower species that you can't necessarily understand directly because they're at a different level than you. But also respecting the fact that all life is sacred and we should protect those that are being attacked. So think of our problem on planet Earth from the point of view of other entities who might be looking down on our chicken coop,
yeah,
and deciding what to do to help us because we're surrounded by foxes. Is it better for us to just stay in that coop, protected by its wires? Or should we be allowed to run around in the yard as free range? But some of us get picked off by invasive foxes. Or should we should get some technology maybe to allow us to fight against those foxes? I don't know. You want to talk about the situation? Because, a lot of things in the world that we see as political are actually exopolitical.
Yes.
They're influenced by others.
Yep.
And I think that there's been laws broken. There's been boundaries crossed, and those things are being corrected right now. And that's why I said earlier, I'm so happy to be living in these interesting times, because we're at a tipping point between one reality controlled by people who think that they're better than us and they should be worshiped even when they're having a birthday, and there should be processions and ceremonies and all those things done. And who are those people and where did they come from? And are they like you and me? Well, they say they're not, and I believe them. They're definitely not like you and me.
No. Yeah, it definitely is a good good conversation to have. You know, how do you go about helping the defenseless chickens in the coop? How do you, from your vantage point, you know? And uh, I don't know how all this is going to play out, but it's I mean, like you said, this is a very interesting time to be alive. I really think in the next 5 years, 10 years, we're going to see some dramatic changes that we've never seen on this planet ever. You know,
Well, look at what happens when the chicken doesn't have to rely on the farmer's feed.
exactly. Yeah.
The farmer's been feeding us, and we've just been lining up, and he's been taking our eggs. He's been taking our eggs and keeping us locked up there. And you know, there's nothing we can do about it. And they're gone, and then they're never coming back. And we don't really complain much. And why is that? And how is that? And do you want to maintain yourself in that situation where you're being milked or you know, egged, and your energies are being depleted, and yet in exchange you get the necessities of life? You might even get a little bit more. There might be a couple of roosters that get an even better place in the coop, or maybe they even get to run around and have some fun with the other hens. And you know, that's what the society and the world we live in. But it's still a coop. It's still a prison.
Still a
And
cage.
it doesn't matter whether you're driving around in a beautiful car or not. You're just part of the same control mechanism.
That's right.
And you know what? Right now we're seeing strange things. We're seeing world trade grinding to a halt. We're seeing energy getting cut off. It seems like the farmer's got a problem. Well, how about that? Now, one day when the farmer doesn't come in the morning with your feed, what you gonna do? Chicken coop doors open. The foxes aren't there anymore because they've been removed by our friends who are helping us. Now we're free for the first time. What kind of a spiritual, material, and societal reality are we going to create? And I think if you want to talk about that, you know, earthly level of existence and situations, I think that's what we're going to be dealing with very, very soon.
I agree fully. We're going to see how people handle themselves and react to the situation when there's no control mechanism imposed on them.
Right.
And I think this is also the reason why you see so many people today that are getting into spirituality and metaphysics and
Yes,
waking up, you know, and they're it's like a seed that's been planted inside of them over time, and now it's like you see it kind of growing and budding, and all of a sudden you got this new these new ideologies, new philosophy. Well, actually, they're old, you know, but you know, new age, right? A lot of people are getting into all this stuff, but and the mainstream version of this is a new age community of spirituality, and I think that correlates directly with what you're talking about, which is
I think it does.
and it's really interesting to see how all of this develops. I mean, I see, you know, I'm very happy to see people into, you know, stones and crystals and metaphysical energy, spirituality, all these different topics. But you also see a lot of, you know, junk in the a lot of mud in the water. Let's put it let's just put it like
You have
that.
to counteract that, and I think
Yeah.
that's our job
I think
as
so too, you know.
as YouTubers. You know, our job is to try to bring another educational perspective,
Yeah.
and not just a people that are showing how to play the latest video game,
Yeah.
or how to make some kind of jackass stunt like boiling a chicken
Yeah.
in Tylenol, or was it NyQuil? I mean, what the WEF is going on? Well, guess what? The guy that was boiling the chicken in NyQuil got like 1,000 views in a day. Now, if that's the kind of world that we live in, I kind of sometimes lose hope for humanity. But on the other hand, I realize that they're victims. They're victims of a media manipulation, and it's the sparkly eyes of the snake. See, the snake hypnotizes with lots of lights and lots of distractions, trying to take you away from your own understanding and your own realization. And that's what the media is. The media is not your friend.
No, absolutely not.
How can we achieve liberation from that? Well, look, the universe really doesn't care if you achieve liberation. That's up to you.
Yep.
That's
but
up
we're doing
to you.
it now. We're doing it now with our dialogue, with sharing what we're talking about. This is how if you go back in time 200 years ago, this is exactly how the Boston Tea Party started.
Absolutely.
People were fed up, and they weren't allowed to gather in town squares and in big public spaces and talk. So what they did is they went to little bars and speakeasies and restaurants and had their discussions there, and it just grew. It blew up into from a little spark to a wildfire. And
well, let's have a little name for the next time we get together. We'll call it the Boston Tea Party video.
I like that. We'll do that. Yeah.
Because the thing is that what happened after the Boston Tea Party? Patriotic Americans decided to dump those boxes of tea, which had huge taxes on them, dump them into the water. In fact, to do that, they dressed up as Iroquois Indians and stormed the ship in the middle of the night, which was a British ship.
Yep.
And they went on the decks and dressed up as Indians so that the British wouldn't take action against the people of the town. Because they're just like Nazis, the British in those days. They would, if you did something against them, they would go and kill a whole bunch of your people as a retribution, just like they did at Vernice in Czechoslovakia when Heydrich was assassinated in Operation Anthropode. But anyway, the point is that that's what they do. They attack you in revenge. So they dressed up as Iroquois so that the Indians would get the blame. There's no Indians around it there. And they dumped those boxes of tea in the water. And it wiped out, in today's money, $1 million in tax revenue.
Yeah.
And then the Americans decided, we're going to switch to coffee. Sorry, we're just not going to do it anymore. We refuse. We object. We don't comply. And we don't agree. That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. Yeah, that's right.
And I like coffee better than tea.
Oh, me too. Actually, I just had some tea. Yeah, but you don't drink both. I mean, you only drink one or the other, right? You don't drink both.
So. Now, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? You don't drink both. Yeah. So, that's the way it is. And I think that that people have to really start to think about their lives and gain liberation from that farmer feeding you chicken feed for breakfast.
That's right.
And get over that kind of control, because you need to step up. You need to step up and regain your sovereignty, regain your life. Because nobody's going to provide it for you unless it's a toxic one leading to your slavery.
That's right. That's right. And we're going to see that compound a lot over the next couple of years, 5 years, 10 years.
Now, unfortunately, we still have these electrified prison bars and fences around us, and we do need some help from our friends. And there's nothing wrong with accepting help from your friends, but you have to ask for it. And to ask for it, you have to have the mind to even realize that you need to ask for it.
I just recently came back from Denver, Colorado for the gym shows, and I drove there from Northern California, so it's quite the long drive. And on my way on my way up there, I stopped through Yosemite, or I drove through Yosemite National Park. Beautiful, beautiful park. And I stopped because I just wanted to take a minute and breathe some fresh air, and just get this, because it was night. So looking at the stars and just hanging out, just trying to get my mind off stuff. And um, while I was standing there, I felt all this energy pressure on my head, and I'm like, whoa, what the hell is this? I recognize the feeling. It was like as if somebody was watching, looking at me, while here I am in the middle of a forest, essentially,
Mhm.
with nobody around me, or so I thought. So I sat there in my car and I relaxed, and I kind of flowed out, and I saw these really interesting. I've never seen this. I was actually going to make a video talking about this, but I might as well just kind of integrate it into this. Uh, I've never seen these ETs before in my life. They looked like an ibis, so like the bird with the big beak,
Yes.
the Egyptian. What do you call those? The Egyptian like figurines of the humans that with the big bird beaks.
I don't think that ibis is wrong. There's another word as well, but I can't.
Yeah, there's
Moment.
but that's almost like when I saw them, I saw them so like clear, and it was just like that's exactly what they had, was that they were upright, stand like a humanoid with a big beak, like coming out to here, like
Right.
and I was like, whoa, and so these guys had this kind of ship hovering above Yosemite, kind of in a subdimensional space per se, and I said, okay, well, that's interesting. So I'm trying to talk with them, and they weren't really talking. So I said, you know what, forget it. Got back in my car, started driving, because I was doing a night drive to Colorado, and I drove for like 6 hours, I think. Drove through Nevada, got into Utah, and I stopped in Utah when it was like 3 a.m. in the morning. I was dead tired. I said, all right, I'm done. I'm for the night. I'm gonna find a place to stay and sleep.
Yeah.
As I It was so interesting. As I turned my car off, as I pulled over, turned my car off, found a spot, uh, I saw this big, brilliant flash of purple and blue light. Like, when somebody astral projects to you, you basically, they're like maybe like this big of a sphere of energy hanging around you. And if you can see them with your physical eyes, or out the corner of your eyes, that's what
Yes.
you're going to see. And then, so I was like, whoa, I closed my eyes, and boom, they're that same, it was that same person that had followed me. They were just like tracking me as I was driving throughout the night, and right when I stopped, they knew. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting. I've never seen these guys before. These
They have a message for you. Definitely.
I think they did. I was trying very hard to talk to them, but I was so tired from driving. My mind was fried. All I could do was really see them, and they were trying to talk to me, and we were going back and forth. But what ended up happening is I just ended up saying hi. It's really nice to see you. But that was, I don't know. It's just something I wanted to share with you guys. I just encountered with an ET that I had never seen before. But they were really just humanoid with these big beaks. It was so cool. And when they opened their mouth, and like the whole beak was like it was interesting. It was pretty fascinating.
Well, if
What
our
do you make of that?
memory serves me correctly, in ancient Egypt, the god Ra
Yeah,
has a big beak.
yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Anyway,
Raw. There's other ones too that had the same features, I think.
yes. Well, look, if you want to talk about that subject, I have no doubt that we have been influenced,
Oh, yeah.
perhaps occupied, and definitely under the observation of multiple ET species
Oh,
ever
yeah.
since
Oh,
our
yeah.
very existence. And we ourselves may have been planted here, as multiple other races also have been planted here,
Yeah.
because for some reason, this is a special place. Now, I remember I've always, and we agree that we're not special, but apparently our geographic location is. It's at a junction of communication for various, I don't know, things far beyond my understanding, energetically and interdimensionally and cosmically. It's a special location, and also there's talk that negative and positive energetic conflicts are happening in this location also, which determine the outcome of either positive or negative far beyond our location. In other words, we're like a battlefield that determines who wins the war for the whole kingdom.
Exactly. We're front and center. We're ground zero. Earth is like
right, which doesn't surprise me. And back to JP's question, it doesn't surprise me that I would be deciding to or asking to be incarnated here at this time, as I assume you also have done. And it doesn't surprise me that we're doing the work that we're doing as part of that war and as part of that battle. Although those words are negative and I don't like to use them. Shall we call it, instead of war and battle, shall we call it
conflict, a disagreement,
transition?
Transition is good. Yeah.
And realignment.
I like that. I like that a lot. The power of marketing.
Well, the power of marketing is endless. And one of the problems is that our minds have been so twisted because, humans are so flexible. We're
malleable. We're very
malleable. You can take a child and you can make the very best or the very worst out of them. And we're kind of like dogs. If you take a dog and beat it, it'll become a vicious little monster. If you take a dog and treat it with love, it'll become your most loyal friend. And humans are kind of like that. But we can obtain liberation from that kind of manipulation by going within and without.
Boom. And that is why I decided to name this podcast Flowing Within. It just seems so appropriate. But that's so true. That is so true. That's the podcast. Tim and I, we were talking before we went live, and I was just thinking I needed to rename the podcast, and I was thinking about an appropriate name for metaphysical and spiritual based podcast. And guys, I was just going back to like grassroots, going back to the basics. How does this all start? By going within, by flowing within.
Well, this should, I'm going to say something right now. This should be private, but I don't care anymore. So I'm just going to say it to you right now. Sure. I would really like to work with an old friend of mine. His name is Ben Fulford, who I met when I was a university student. Mm-hmm. And we don't keep in contact much anymore, but he's quite famous on the net for having, newsletters about politics and things like that. And I think that he would agree, as long as I paid for it, to have some of our work translated and put online in Japan, where he lives.
Oh, wow.
And I also have another friend who's able to maybe do that in Hong Kong. And I have another friend who's able to do that in Korea. So anyway, there you go. I think some international, connectivity was
absolutely.
Important.
There's a lot of people that in those countries, in those areas that are becoming aware and cognizant of what's going on. It's not just Western countries or it's definitely.
Yeah. And remember the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel was all about dividing us by language, by race, by religion, but we're not divisible in our hearts and souls. We are human. And anyone who tries to say that you're a different race or a different language or a different culture and therefore do not have the same reality is a goddamn liar, because we do have the same spiritual and conscious awareness and the same communality as humans. And that has to be promoted, I believe.
Right. And
I'm sorry to raise my voice. But no. I'm a little bit upset because of the constant hammering away that we receive, that we're somehow needing to have suspicion or animosity towards other people that don't look like us, or they don't happen to believe in the same gods that we do, or they don't speak the same language, therefore we can't communicate with them. That's the kind of manipulation that's been going on here far too long.
Yeah, it's true.
and we can overcome it right now and
That's
do
right.
our little part. And I'm not
We're
trying
doing
to,
our yeah. Well, we're doing our
recruit
part
you or
now.
anything. I'm just, because you do fantastic work, and some of our friends already do fantastic work, and we just have to continue that work until our dying breath.
Absolutely. That's why we're here to help. And I'm totally up for that. Uh Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, that would be amazing. Amazing.
Absolutely. And it's connecting the consciousness of anyone who wants to listen. If they don't want to listen, that's fine.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think they can. And you know, and it's just like the pool of still water, and the pebble that lands in the center, and the ripples that emanate to the edges and then rebound
That's
back
right.
to the center again, creating you know, a dynamic awareness and consciousness uh, uh, from the initial spark.
That's right. That's right. All right, guys. If you have any questions, now it's time to ask. We are just about finishing up here. The podcast usually go for an hour and then cut it off. So
Yeah, we're at the hour mark. So
I think we are. Let me scroll up here, see if
Uh-huh.
there's any questions. Okay. Jason asks, "Hey Frank, did you patch everything up with J E aka Era?"
Mhm.
You know, regardless of what happens, it doesn't really matter too much. We both you just have to keep moving forward and keep doing what you're doing. I've learned in life that you got to just whatever it is you're doing, you just have to give it your all and try your best. And if you do that, that's all that matters. You never know what's going to happen with other people, with situations, circumstances. You can't control that. You can't have control or anything over that. All you have to do is just know that you do your best every day. You give it your best at bat every time you do whatever it is you're doing. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just I'm uh making the podcast here. I'm trying to spread the word and trying to come up with new and different creative ideas to further this progression, I guess. So that's it. JPM asks, "Do you need a Gordon Duff with veterans today?" I actually don't know what that means.
I'm familiar with that guy. He gives out mostly military information about United States, you know, activities.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and he has a you know, a political, mostly military, you know, insights about things like in the Middle East and so on. He's obviously a veteran himself, and probably connected to some agency. He's a kind of similar to Benjamin Fulford in that he gives out information, some of which is helpful, some of which might be manipulation. That's as much as I know.
Gordon Duff. I will look into him. I don't know anything about him, but I'm gonna do some researching.
Well, he did have a couple of things from contributors discussing the 13 families that supposedly control the Illuminati
Okay.
and the monarchies and that kind of level of control of humanity. I personally am not too interested in that anymore, because the earth is under new management.
Yeah.
And those things are all gone, I believe.
They are.
That's just me. That's my belief.
I'm not too interested in that either as well. I mean, back in maybe 10 years ago, I was talking about, the Illuminati, maybe a decade ago now today. And I'm just like, yeah, it's whatever.
It's like talking about Nazis. You know,
Yeah.
the Nazis are gone. We don't have Nazis anymore,
Yeah.
or at least not the way we had them, like fighting in wars. There might have been a few influencers, and it's like the 13 families, the Illuminati, whatever. They don't have that power anymore. We're achieving freedom from them.
Yep. We are.
In my
Okay. Well, I think that's the last question. Uh, Yeah. That's about it. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for watching this episode of Flowing Within podcast with conversations with Tim. And also, I want to let you guys know, if you're interested in coming on and sharing your story, please let me know. Send me an email. This is what this is all about. Talking to people one-on-one and hearing their story and seeing how that can, help somebody else in their own path of awakening, of metaphysical spiritual awakening, right?
We're all in it together.
We are, and we learn from each other. I really, I'm tired of being just a talking head here on YouTube. I want to listen to you guys. I want to hear what your story is, because as much as this we make these things to help other people, I also take a lot from talking to individuals like yourself. And I recently spoke with a lovely lady yesterday. Her name's Bonnie. I'll be uploading that video as well.
More lovely ladies. Yes, please.
Absolutely. And we can format it different. Like if you don't want to be on video, we could just have dialogue, audio, talk. Do that as well. So let me know, and I'll link Tim's YouTube channel below and his contact information if you want to reach out to him and talk to him. He's got a wonderful YouTube channel called Philosophy is in the Light. A lot of what we spoke about here, you're gonna find that kind of content on his channel. Very in depth, very insightful. I love.
Frank. I appreciate it.
I love listening to you. You and your friend from Hong Kong. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. He's my foil. He helps me by asking questions, and of course it's unscripted. We don't make any plan in advance.
That's what I love about it. It's just unscripted. You just go. You just follow.
and it's just great because we're like-minded people exist everywhere, and the main thing is to create a world in which we're all like-minded.
That's right.
Good night, Frank. I mean, good afternoon.
Good night, Tim. Good night, everybody. And or good afternoon, and I'll see you guys.